The Rangers continued their winning ways, winning 4 straight out of the break on a wild walk-off wild pitch against the Rays. On today's show, I'm breaking down who is the most valuable Rangers young player, who they should trade for, and more. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, and your Rangers are 56-39, alone atop the AL West in first place, 3.5 games ahead of those Houston Astros. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. And thank you to all of you who have subscribed. We have finally hit 2,500 subscribers on YouTube in just under 2 years of being on there. So thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, even if you aren't listening right now. But if you are listening right now and haven't hit that subscribe button, we're going for 3,000. So let's go ahead and keep those coming. Before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now the Rangers won yet again in comeback fashion and in dramatic fashion as well. Walk-off, wild pitch, and a weird way, but a good way to win, and a way that shows that the Rangers are continuing to win in different ways. I talked a little bit on yesterday's show about the sweep, showing the Rangers doing something they hadn't done before, and having a lot of comeback victories was not something this team had done before. But in the first half, the Rangers were 1-23 when trailing after 6 innings. Since the break, they are 3-0, 4-23 now when losing after 6 innings. One of those wins was Friday, one of those wins was Sunday, and one was Monday. And Ezequiel Duran was a huge reason why the Rangers were able to make that comeback win stick. But I do want to get to Dane Dunning. I want to start with Dane Dunning, who had a rough start, a rough couple of first innings, a rough first inning, I should say, just 1 run allowed, and, got hit in the foot with a liner. Thankfully, he was okay and was able to pitch through it. And, it looked like he was having a little bit of trouble commanding the strike zone with that early walk to Wander Franco, and then allowed that 1 run on a sac fly, then allowed a home run to the brother of Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Lowe, into the right field bullpen. The Rangers were down 2-0 after 2 innings, and you thought, okay, well, this is going to be really tough because the Rangers are facing off against Shane McClannahan. McClannahan was just coming off the IL. He did not pitch in the All-Star game, even though he was selected as an All-Star participant. Probably would have started the All-Star game, honestly, if he was healthy, but he hadn't pitched in 17 days, and he came back and he looked like he did not miss a single beat. I mean, Marcus Semien did lead off with a leadoff single, but Corey Seager hit into a double play, and through the first 5 innings, McClannahan faced the minimum. He was absolutely electric in that game against the Rangers. He didn't throw all that many pitches, only 69 pitches, but that's all he needed to get through 6 innings, but he did not get out unscathed. When he had faced the minimum after those 5 innings, he started the 6th inning, of course, with a leadoff single from who else but Robbie Grossman, who I just got through talking a lot of trash about yesterday. I did say he should face lefties. He is good against lefties. That is something he has done very well in his career, and he has done well this year. He led off the inning with an infield sinker to Wander Franco. It was a play that Wander Franco, I don't think he could have made. I don't think he could have done it much better. It was very, very well placed. And, of course, Grossman, who is a little bit on the older side, I believe he's 33 or something, still has above average speed, above average sprint speed, which is one of the things that he does bring to the table, even if his glove is not that great. Because we did see Leody Taveras starting in left field over Robbie Grossman, which I think is a good thing for the Rangers, something that should continue moving forward. I think that Grossman's defense has been bad for several years. The advanced metrics lay that out, but he can be valuable against lefty pitching. He did that by beating out a infield single. Then the best at-bat I think I've ever seen from Ezequiel Duran is what followed. He ended up homering on a fastball from Shane McClannahan to the opposite field, his first opposite field home run of the season. This is how the at-bat started out. Shane McClannahan is a really, really good pitcher for a number of reasons, not just because he throws hard. Actually, that's not even really a big reason why he's so successful. He is one of the hardest throwing lefties in the game, but that is not the reason. He is a complete pitcher. He is a guy who has one of the best lefty changeups in all of baseball. He's got good breaking balls as well, and he knows how to pitch very, very well outside of just having really, really nasty stuff. And he started Ezequiel Duran with a changeup 86 miles an hour down and away. He fouled that off. Then he brought the changeup up 86 right about where that home run pitch was, and Ezequiel Duran swung through it. Then he's down 0-2 immediately, right after that leadoff single. And you thought, okay, well, the Rangers going to do anything with this? Still down 2-0 against Shane McClannahan. It doesn't feel like this is a recipe for success. Then he gets an 88 mile an hour changeup down below the zone that he takes. Very, very good take by him. A little bit faster than the other ones at 88 miles an hour. Then a 97 mile an hour fastball away outside of the zone, about, chest high, but still something that Ezequiel Duran has shown the ability to do. He's been able to hit high fastballs, which is something that pitchers nowadays are using very effectively. And if you're a guy who can hit fastballs with that velocity and that spin rate up in the zone, especially as a guy who's a little bit shorter, that is a big, big boost for him. The catcher wanted it down just a little bit more belt high than chest high, but is still a fastball out of the zone that Ezequiel Duran absolutely launched into the right field bullpen. It was 105.2 miles an hour off the bat, 418 feet. Like I said, his first opposite field home run of the season. And he only had one opposite field home run last year. This is not a guy who has a lot of power to the opposite field, and that's why it was so impressive to me. Not just that it was a 2-strike home run, which is something this team does very well, is hitting with 2 strikes, but the fact that he was able to, this is the first fastball he saw in that at bat, and he took it to the opposite field, something he had not done before. That is showing a growth, a completeness as a hitter. And he had been, I just talked yesterday about how Ezequiel Duran had been in a rough way offensively, and for him to have that at bat was just absolutely phenomenal. It was so impressive. It was one of the most impressive at-bats I've seen from a Ranger this year. Like, just the progression of it, what it meant in that situation, and who it was against is just such a huge, huge moment. Oh yeah, and also it tied the game up. It tied the game up for the Rangers against the best team in the American League so far this season, and the Rangers were able to walk it off. Look, the bottom of this order, the bottom third of this order coming up huge. And that this is something that the Rays' bottom third of their order did not do coming up. We're going to get into why I think the Rangers' offense is more complete than the Rays. A little bit of a look at the trio of youngsters, who is the most valuable, and a couple of trade targets that just to keep your mind on for now. But first, let's word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. They've got flash deals and last-minute tickets. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. Get images of your seats before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to the Aviators for making Locked On Raiders your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about why the AL West is so winnable this season for the Rangers. Texas takes on the Rays this week. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, one thing that the Rangers' bottom third of their order did was come up huge. You had the 2-run home run by Ezequiel Duran, who was hitting 8th, and the 2-hit game by Robbie Grossman, who was hitting 7th in the order. Also had a double for Robbie Grossman. But I mean, don't look at Ezequiel or Leody Taveras, because he's not making my point in this specific instance. But there was another big shot for the Rays to take advantage and keep building on that lead. But Dane Dunning kept the bottom third of that order down. It was in the 4th inning, runners on 2nd and 3rd, and the number 8 hole hitter Taylor Walls came up, and Dane Dunning had a runner on 3rd with less than 2 outs, a sac fly, anything to deep in the infield, or just anything to the outfield, would score that run and would have given the Rays a 3-run lead. But Dane Dunning stepped up big and was able to get a strikeout when he needed it. Struck out Taylor Walls, kept it close, and then Christian Bethancourt, he got to fly out lazily to right field. The number 8 and 9 hitters for the Rays not coming up, where the Rangers number 8 and 9 hitters did come up. Those 3 were a combined where we go. Oh, I guess Josh Lowe is in the bottom third of that order and did have a home run in this game. So kind of not really proving my point, but just look at the number 8 hitter. We're going to go with that specifically, Taylor Walls versus Ezequiel Duran. So, I mean, this lineup is very, very deep for the Rays. I do still think that the Rangers lineup is a little bit deeper, because the Rangers don't have anybody in their lineup with a I guess, I don't know if he's up there yet. But they don't have anybody with no sub 650 OPS guys in their lineup, whereas the Rays do have that in their lineup. So, I mean, it's a little bit nitpicky if you're wanting to pick some nits. I do think that the Rangers have a slight edge there, but it's also a huge credit to Dane Dunning, who was absolutely nails after those first couple of shaky innings. End of the day with 7 innings pitched, just 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 solo homer, and 4 strikeouts. Then you got great pitching performances from Jose Leclerc, coming in a tie game in the 8th inning, getting a perfect inning with 1 strikeout. And then Aroldis Chapman, who was very, very good in the top of the 9th inning, struck out the side in order, hit 103 miles an hour on the radar gun, and finished it off with a strikeout looking on a full count splitter right down the middle that the hitter could do absolutely nothing with. Very, very impressive outing for Chapman, who got the win in this one. And then start off in the bottom of the 9th inning. The Rangers start off with a leadoff double from Josh Jung, who was hitting 3rd in this one because of the lefty on the mound. Hits that massive, massive double. Jose Siri does not play that very well, and the ball gets to the wall, and Josh Jung, he's not an elite speed guy, but he was able to get to second base pretty easily on that one. And then the Rangers making smart moves by Bruce Bochy, seeing these little moves. I mean, even the top of the 9th inning, with Travis Jankowski coming in and pinch guy as defensive substitution for Ezequiel Duran, having your best outfield defensively out there after the 8th inning at bat from Ezequiel Duran, where he ended up striking out with a runner in scoring position. But it's fine. He had come through earlier in the game. It's fine. It's definitely a forgivable moment. It was kind of surprising to see the Rangers not come up after that Robbie Grossman leadoff double. I mean, the Rays got Ezequiel Duran to strike out on 3 pitches. The Rays got Leody Taveras to strike out on 3 pitches. They did walk Marcus Semien, but there you go. Okay, you got to walk Marcus Semien to get to Corey Seager, who hit a weak fly ball to shallow center field that I believe it was the shortstop who made that play in Wander Franco. But I was kind of surprised that in those 4 guys coming up, none of them got a hit with runners in scoring position. The Rangers were actually 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. The only hit with a runner on base was that home run from Ezequiel Duran. Interesting turn of events there, but hey, the Rangers did what they needed to and won how they needed to. I mean, it took a double from Josh Jung, then pinch running Josh Smith for Josh Jung, who is just that little bit faster, maybe more than a little bit faster, but then a productive out from Nathaniel Lowe to get him over to third base, and then a wild pitch in a 1-1 count to Mitch Garver from Pete Fairbanks, former Ranger great, ended up scoring the go-ahead run, the winning run, the walk-off run, a walk-off wild pitch. What a weird way to end it, and just kind of a sign that the Rangers are hot. They are feeling it, and they are maybe the best team in the American League. I mean, the American League crown, the number 1 seed in that playoff race, that playoff hunt, is available. I mean, this Rays team, they started off incredibly good with that, 13 straight games won. But in the month of July, they have really, really come back down to earth. They had a 7-game losing streak. It nearly had an 8-game losing streak heading into the All-Star break. And they did come out with winning 2 out of 3 against the Royals in Kansas City, which, okay, fine. That's not anything that's all that impressive. But in the month of July, they are 3-9. 3-9. That is really going to put the Rangers slump into perspective. The Rangers still do have a winning record in the month of July, even with those early July struggles. They are 7-6 in the month of July. They were 18-9 in May, 14-13 in June. So it seems like they are on pace to not have a losing month at all. And one thing that the Rays did with that 7-game losing streak that the Rangers have not done. The Rangers only had a 4-game losing streak. That is their longest losing streak. That was when they got swept by the Reds, and I believe the first game of the series against the Yankees before the Rangers ended up, I believe, coming back to take the last 3 out of 4 against the Yankees, or maybe it was one game heading into the Red Series. Anyway, all I know is that was the only time that the Rangers have gotten swept was in that series against the Reds, which doesn't look as bad in hindsight, seeing what the Reds are doing now, but definitely did not feel good at the time. But the Rangers mitigating those long losing streaks, having a guy like Bruce Bochy at the helm, I feel like is a really guy who can pump the brakes when things are starting to spiral out of control. Kind of get this team centered even when the fan base and it feels like everyone around them is like, oh wow, this team is actually fraudulent. I don't really know how good this team is. Having Bruce Bochy there to kind of right that ship, that is the kind of influence that he has on this team, and a reason that I am incredibly grateful for the Rangers signing him, bring him out of retirement to come and coach this team. And I think might be the most important offseason acquisition the Rangers have made in the past two off seasons. Yeah, maybe more important. Probably not more important than Marcus Semien or Corey Seager, what they're doing this year. Maybe more important than Jacob DeGrom. Probably will help the Rangers a lot more than Jacob DeGrom this year, just because DeGrom only pitched for a month. It might not help them more than Nathan Eovaldi, but still, it's just a different kind of impact that is incredibly difficult to quantify, but you can see it in the team. You can see it in their mannerisms, the way that they, conduct themselves, the way that the bullpen has been, just all kinds of different little things that are very hard to quantify, but all add up to be a massive, massive impact that Bruce Bochy is making on this team. Coming up, we're going to look at the 3 youngsters in Josh Jung, Ezequiel Duran, and Leody Taveras. Which of them is most valuable, and how willing to part with them in a trade would I be at this moment? But first, this word from our sponsors. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rays your first listen every single day. On Thursday's show, I'll be doing a crossover with Locked On Rays to break down this crucial series against Tampa Bay. The Rangers take on the Rays this week. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, this is a little exercise that Baseball Prospectus used to do a whole lot when they would release their top 10. Actually, I think they might still do it when they release their top 10 prospect rankings of top talents 25 and under, to kind of also include the young talents on the big league roster in terms of the young farm development. And I think that's something that is very valuable, especially when the Rangers are approaching a trade deadline where there are going to be some pretty big asking prices for some of these guys that could potentially make the Rangers World Series favorites, including Shohei Ohtani, which is an episode I'll get into later. I want to do a crossover with the Locked On Angels boys to see what kind of trade package that might be. I think the Rangers will consider it, but I don't know if it'll end up happening. But I do still want to talk about these top 3 young guys, and this is my order that I would rank these young trio in. I would say Josh Jung is probably the most valuable of these 3. Then I would go Leody Taveras, and then Ezequiel Duran. Now, Josh Jung is 25 years old. He is the oldest of this bunch, but he also has the most years of control. He is signed. If someone traded for him now, they would get 5.5 years of Josh Jung. Leody Taveras has 4 years after this season. Ezequiel Duran has 5 years of control after this season. Leody is 24 years old. He will be turning 25 in, I believe, September. And Ezequiel Duran is the youngest of this bunch. He just turned 24 in May of this season. But in terms of these guys, I mean, they all have really, really high upsides, and they are, fulfilling some of the best, the highest, reasonable expectations that anyone could have had for any of these guys. I'm the least surprised of it by Josh Jung doing this, because he is the oldest of the bunch. He probably could have been a big league regular 3 years ago, and I've just been very impressed and very high on him for many, many years. I think that of these three, Leody has the highest ceiling in terms of the best case scenario of what he could be, because there's still another level to Leody. I think there's still definitely another level. He is 24 years old. We've seen the power. That is really what's going to separate him, and the quality at bats, the quality of at bats. We've seen him have a lot of really quality at bats and be aggressive in terms of the stolen bases, but like the raw toolsiness, I think Leody might have the biggest raw power of any of these guys. I don't think he has anywhere near the best hit tool, but he's obviously the fastest. He's maybe got the strongest arm. I mean, right now, Ezequiel Duran, his arm has been clocked a little bit higher than Leody Taveras. Leody Taveras is in the 93rd percentile of our outfielder arm strength, and Ezequiel Duran is 100 percentile of arm strength. So, yeah, it kind of depends on the day between those two. But, I mean, a premium defensive center fielder with elite instincts in center field. We've seen the center field defense kind of lapse sometimes, but I think that Leody Taveras definitely has the highest ceiling. I think that Josh Jung is the most likely to realize that ceiling of these guys. He might have the lowest actual ceiling, but again, it's Josh Jung, and he's already an all-star starter as a rookie, so I don't want to bet on what his ceiling might be. But I do think that Josh Jung is the most likely to improve and be the best player among this bunch. But the possibilities are endless with Leody Taveras and Ezequiel Duran as well. If the Rangers decided to make a trade for him, the only reason that Ezequiel Duran isn't the Rangers' starting shortstop right now and playing above average defense at shortstop while also having an 850 plus OPS with 13 bombs on the season is because of Corey Seager, and that might eventually change in the next couple of years. So if the Rangers were trading him for a guy like Shohei Ohtani, I don't know how many other teams are beating that for a rental of Ohtani. Not that I would do that. I might. I don't know. I haven't grappled with it yet. I haven't sat and meditated on it yet. But I think that is my level of where I would rank these guys. I would rank all three of those guys definitely ahead of Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, which, speaking of Wyatt Langford, he will officially sign today at some point after this episode is posted, or maybe in the middle of me recording it. The news was broken by Jim Callis, who writes for MLB Pipeline, is the senior writer there. Wyatt Langford will sign for $8 million. The slot value on that pick is $7.698 million, so he is going a little bit over slot. The Rangers' total bonus pool was $9.9253 million, $9,925,300. So that is the vast majority of the Rangers signing bonus pool to the number 4 overall pick, a guy who was probably either the best or second best prospect in this draft. I mean, the Rangers are probably feeling pretty good about him falling to them. So going a little bit over slot to make sure that they get this guy is the right move. We saw their entire draft strategy after that was a lot of college pitchers and a lot of relief pitchers. So not guys who are going to command a whole lot of money, but Langford will sign for that $8 million. And there was a really nice feature in the Dallas Morning News written by Sean McFarland about, the entire Wyatt Langford experience, the vibe of him. It kind of feels very similar to the vibe of a lot of guys in this clubhouse, in Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and Josh Jung as well. Just guys that are pretty low-key, not very loud or boisterous, just kind of like just chill and very even-keeled vibe. And that is definitely the vibe that I got from Wyatt Langford reading that piece. And it seems like that Sean McFarland was putting out there. Very good stuff, so go check it out on dallasnews.com or in an actual physical newspaper if you are an 80-year-old man like me and like reading the actual physical newspaper. But this is a very, very good top 5, young player group, and with these guys, with Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, I mean, it seems like right now the Rangers' outfield situation is pretty locked down for the next several years. I mean, Adolis Garcia is going to be under contract for 3 more seasons. Leody Taveras, like I said, he's going to be here for another 4 years after this. Ezequiel Duran's going to be here for another 5 years after this. And then that's not even including the 6+ years of Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford in the big leagues whenever they get there, of however long they're going to be there. So both of those guys are very high ceiling guys. Evan Carter, I think, could break into the big leagues by the end of the season. We still haven't seen him promoted to AAA, which I feel like has got to happen honestly almost at any minute. But that kind of gives the Rangers the ability, not that I want them to trade either Carter or Langford, which they can't trade Langford until I believe mid-season next year because they just drafted him. But if they did want to part with one of these guys, if they do feel like they have a glut of outfield talent and a glut of lineup talent, honestly, then they could possibly do that. One of the guys, if they are trying to make a big trade that is probably going to cost a lot in prospect capital, the guy who's at the top of my list, if you're really wanting to go all in, and you're probably going to have to trade one of Evan Carter or maybe Ezequiel Duran. They're probably not going to trade Leody Taveras just because he fills such an important role that the Rangers can't fill internally right now. And same with Josh Jung, unless if they trade Josh Jung and just decide to make Ezequiel Duran the everyday third baseman, that's a possibility, but I don't think they're trading either of these guys. But the guy at the top of my list is, of course, David Bednar. He is the closer for the Pirates. The Rangers saw him, and I believe he closed out the only win that the that the Pirates got in that series against the Rangers. He is a right-handed pitcher, 6 foot, 225 pounds. This is his fifth season in the big leagues. He is a 2-time All-Star, finished top 10 in Rookie of the Year voting with Pittsburgh in 2021, and this year he has been absolutely phenomenal as the Pirates closer. Unfortunately, they've not been able to win that many games to give him a whole bunch of save opportunities. He does have 17 saves in 36 games, a 1.22 ERA, 37 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts, 0.2 home runs per 9, 1.7 walks per 9, 10.9 Ks per 9. The fielding independent pitching is 1.77. He is doing all the things that I look for in a reliever of not allowing walks, not allowing home runs barely at all, and striking a bunch of guys out. This is a guy who was an all-star last year, had a 2.61 ERA in 51 and 2/3 innings, 69 strikeouts, which was pretty darn nice. He also had a 2.23 ERA in 60 and 2/3 innings pitched with 77 strikeouts the year before with Pittsburgh. He is a little bit on the older side for a guy who has this much, I don't want to say wear and tear under his belt, but this much major league experience. Only pitched a couple of outings in those first 2 years with San Diego in 2019 and 2020. Then was traded to Pittsburgh for Joe Musgrove and might just be the best piece that the Pirates got in that deal. But he has got several years of control, not a free agent until 2027. He is a 2-time All-Star. He is doing it with very, very good stuff as well. His chase rate's in the top 2% of baseball, the walk rate, top 7% of baseball, whiff rate, top 5%, fastball velo, fastball spin rate, both of those in the top 10% of baseball. He sits 96 miles an hour and it's got a lot of movement on it, and does not walk guys and does not allow hard contact at all. This is a guy who is probably one of the best closers, if not the best closer in all of baseball right now. And if the Rangers are wanting to spin big and make sure that they get another good right-handed arm in their pen, because they've got 3 really good lefties and one righty who I trust to be much better when he comes back in Josh Sborz. But if they want some, bad A, type A, closer guy, then I think Bednar is probably their best bet. But if they're wanting to go a little bit cheaper, on the cheaper side, if they're wanting to go a 2-for-1 deal, if you are not a believer in Martin Perez or in Andrew Heaney, I think the White Sox have got to be one of the teams that you're looking to scrape and vulture the parts off of a dying team. And 2 of those parts that I think would be very, very nice for the Rangers. One is Kendall Graveman, who is a relief pitcher for the White Sox. He has been fairly good this season. Not great. I don't think he would immediately be the Rangers closer. He's got a 3.07 ERA in 42 games, 41 innings pitched, 40 strikeouts, 19 walks, so 4.2 walks per 9, under 9 strikeouts per 9. The FIP is just under 5, which is not really great, but I think that he is going to outperform those numbers if he comes to Texas. Another guy, if the Rangers are wanting to trade for someone with a lot of years of control, not a whole lot of wear and tear on him, not a whole lot of major league experience either, is probably going to cost a whole lot in Gregory Santos, who is a guy for the White Sox. He is 23 years old, has a 2.62 ERA, 42 games, 47 in the 3rd innings, 46 strikeouts, under 2 walks per 9, 0.2 home runs per 9, and 8.7 Ks per 9. Throws the ball really freaking hard, averaging in the, where'd we go? Give me just a second. He's in the top 2% of baseball in terms of his fastball velocity, top 5% in terms of his chase rate, a guy who would probably cost a lot, but might be worth it. Also, Lucas Giolito is another name that I would look at, and if the Rangers are wanting to go for a starter with multiple years of control, and maybe they think they can fix Dylan Cease, make him pitch more than 5 innings per game, then that might also be a worthy target. I'm not sure how much I'm trading for any starting pitching, especially any from the White Sox, who have not all been doing super well this year, but definitely some names to consider, some guys to keep your eyes out for, because I don't think that any of these guys would cost any of that awesome young top 3 of Josh Jung, Leody Taveras, and Ezequiel Duran. Maybe the Rangers make a splash and do it for Shohei Ohtani, but that is an episode for another day. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.